Evelyn Mercer arrived at the Vale estate on the morning of her wedding with revenge hidden beneath white silk. The sprawling stone mansion stood beside the Columbia River, surrounded by pine-covered hills and pale autumn mist. Private docks cut into the dark water below, while early sunlight flashed across tall windows like fire trapped behind glass. Beautiful, isolated, and heavily guarded. Exactly the kind of place a powerful man believed no enemy could reach. Adrian Vale waited at the top of the steps in a black suit, his expression as cold as the river behind him. He did not smile when Evelyn approached. He did not offer his hand. 3 weeks earlier, he had made an impossible proposal. He would pay the Mercer family's debts and prevent their remaining properties from being seized. In return, Evelyn would become his wife. Adrian had never explained why he wanted the daughter of a ruined businessman. Evelyn had not asked. She had accepted because marriage gave her something years of investigation never had: direct access to the man she believed had destroyed her family. Victor Mercer's company had collapsed after a coordinated financial attack involving frozen accounts, vanished investors, and falsified shipping violations. Her father had died soon afterward, his heart failing beneath the weight of disgrace. Evelyn believed Adrian had engineered every step. For 3 years, she had collected information on his empire: offshore corporations, political payments, freight routes, and companies that disappeared whenever investigators came too close. Once inside his family, she would find proof, deliver it to federal authorities, and watch the Vale name burn. She crossed the threshold knowing she was not entering a marriage. She was entering enemy territory. The ceremony was private and brief. Adrian never pretended she loved him. He demanded no passionate kiss, made no possessive display, and did not question her choice of dress or where she went afterward. His restraint should have comforted her. Instead, Evelyn saw his arrogance. Adrian acted like a man so certain of his control that he had no reason to display it. During the reception, she noticed Mason Rourke near the terrace, watching her with undisguised hostility. Across the room, Margaret Vale studied Evelyn differently. The older woman's gaze lingered on her face, as though searching for the shadow of someone she had once known. Evelyn slipped away before either approached. Adrian's office was unguarded. Behind his desk, she found an open safe containing shipping records connected to Mercer Freight. She photographed page after page until one document froze the breath in her lungs. Victor Mercer, protected asset. Beneath the heading were payments Adrian had made to unidentified security teams during the final months of her father's life. Evelyn's fingers trembled. He had not merely destroyed Victor. He had watched him until the end, and perhaps paid someone to finish the job. The office door closed behind her. Adrian saw the open safe, but raised no alarm. Instead, he entered a code into his computer and gave her complete access to the estate's internal security archives. His trust made no sense. Hours later, Evelyn searched those archives and uncovered a concealed photograph of Adrian standing beside her supposedly dead brother, Caleb. The photograph was dated 2 months after Caleb Mercer was officially buried. By dawn, the photograph of Caleb had vanished from the state security archive. Adrian offered no explanation. He only told Evelyn to pack. Hours later, his SUV climbed through the blue mountains of Washington, following narrow roads above steep valleys and white waterfalls. Fog swallowed the cedar forest, turning every mountain trail into a disappearing path. Evelyn watched Adrian's hands on the steering wheel. He had discovered her search. She was certain of it. The mountain house appeared without warning, a dark wooden structure hidden beneath towering cedars. There were no servants waiting, no armed guards, and none of the polished luxury that defined the riverside estate. Once they entered, Adrian checked every window and strengthened the locks. "What are you protecting me from?" Evelyn asked. His expression remained unreadable. "Someone accessed the state security network." Her pulse tightened. "And you think it was me?" "I know it was not." The certainty in his answer disturbed her more than an accusation would have. Adrian refused to say who had breached the network. Instead, he activated hidden sensors around the property and ordered Evelyn not to leave the house alone. She assumed he was isolating her. Then she noticed the building was not designed as a prison. It was designed to survive a siege. Beneath loose floorboards, she found medical equipment, dried food, water filters, encrypted radios, and emergency identity documents. A concealed wall behind the pantry contained photographs of journalists, accountants, police officers, and witnesses connected to Senator Sloan's redevelopment projects. Many had officially disappeared. Caleb's photograph was among them. Notes beside the images revealed that Adrian had secretly relocated several witnesses before corrupt officials could silence them. His shipping network had transported them under false names, explaining why government records still described him as a trafficker. Evelyn had entered the house expecting weapons and criminal money. Instead, she found evidence that Adrian had been hiding people from the government. Voices rose outside. Through the partly open kitchen door, she saw Mason Rourke confronting Adrian beneath the trees. "She cannot stay," Mason said. "She is already too close." "She stays," Adrian replied. "You owe Victor, not his daughter." Adrian stepped nearer, his voice dropping. "Evelyn is protected by a private agreement. You will not touch her." The word struck harder than a threat. Perhaps Adrian's strange patience was not trust or affection. Perhaps she was only a debt inherited from her father. After Mason left, Evelyn found an emergency satellite device inside the radio cabinet and contacted Lena Hart. Lena's response arrived minutes later. Federal investigators had reopened Victor Mercer's case. Official records showed that Adrian gained valuable shipping contracts immediately after Mercer's shipping collapsed. Savior or predator, Evelyn thought. He appeared to be both. That evening, she discovered a trapdoor beneath a storage rug. Stone steps led to a sealed basement room containing Caleb's bloodstained jacket, his passport, and legal documents prepared under another name. A medical log stated that Caleb had been treated there after being shot by someone connected to federal law enforcement. The final entry said he had left alive and been transferred to an unidentified coastal facility. Then Evelyn found a recording device beneath the papers. Her father's voice filled the room. "Adrian, they know Caleb survived. I need you to protect my son." Her father's recorded plea still haunted Evelyn when gunfire shattered the mountain house windows. Adrian moved her before sunrise. By the following evening, they had reached a private compound hidden within Puerto Rico's rainforest. Bright flowers climbed its weathered stone walls, waterfalls thundered beyond abandoned plantation ruins, and coastal cliffs dropped sharply into the sea. The compound had once belonged to one of Victor Mercer's international shipping partners. Inside its underground archive, Evelyn found proof that her father's business had never been as innocent as she believed. Victor had maintained relationships with smugglers, corrupt officials, and criminal organizations long before Mercer shipping collapsed. Adrian unlocked the files without protest. The documents revealed that Senator Sloan had pressured legitimate shipping companies into transporting illegal pharmaceuticals and undocumented prisoners. Victor initially cooperated to protect his employees, but later collected evidence against Sloan and prepared to expose the operation. Adrian's organization had been hired to sabotage Mercer's shipping. The admission struck Evelyn like a blade. He had been part of the attack. However, the remaining records showed that Adrian abandoned the assignment after discovering Sloan intended to kill innocent workers, witnesses, and Victor's children. Instead, Adrian helped Victor relocate evidence and hide Caleb. Mercer shipping still collapsed because Sloan controlled the banks, insurers, regulators, and law enforcement investigations surrounding it. "You did not destroy my family," Evelyn said, staring at Adrian across the archive table. "But you stood close enough to profit from the ruins." Adrian did not deny it. After Mercer shipping fell, he had taken control of several abandoned routes and used them to strengthen his empire. He had protected the surviving Mercers while quietly expanding his own power. A man could save lives and still feed upon disaster. Evelyn's hatred survived because that truth left no innocent side. While examining their marriage contract, she discovered a concealed clause. If Adrian died, every former Mercer route under Vale control would transfer to her. The marriage had not merely protected her remaining property. It had been designed to return what her family lost. Before Evelyn could confront him, Mason secretly contacted Sloan and reported that she had reached the Puerto Rico archive. That night, a tropical storm buried the compound beneath violent rain. Men wearing federal narcotics uniforms breached the outer gates and opened fire. Adrian recognized them as imposters. He dragged Evelyn to plantation ruins toward an underground water tunnel leading beneath the cliffs. Halfway through, an explosion threw him against a stone wall and injured his leg. Evelyn reached the exit first. She could have abandoned him and escaped with the evidence. For 3 years, she had dreamed of Adrian Vale's destruction. Instead, she returned, pulled his arm across her shoulders, and carried him through the rising water. At the coastal shelter, they recovered a damaged video file from the archive. It showed Victor meeting Adrian shortly before Victor's death. Her father appeared calm. He willingly handed Adrian a sealed envelope and spoke about Evelyn's future. The man she had married for revenge might have been the last man her father trusted. Adrian opened a digital copy of Victor's instructions. It stated that Evelyn must marry Adrian if Senator Sloan ever attempted to eliminate the Mercer family completely. Victor's instructions followed Evelyn into the Arizona desert, like a voice she could not silence. The restored hotel stood alone beneath brilliant golden sunlight, surrounded by red rock canyons, cactus fields, dry riverbeds, and highways stretching toward an empty horizon. It belonged to one of Victor Mercer's former companies, although Adrian had quietly maintained it for years. Evelyn studied her father's letter inside a private suite overlooking the canyon. Marry Adrian. Trust him if Sloan comes to the family. The words looked deliberate, but she could not dismiss the possibility that Victor had written them under pressure. A final request was not proof of innocence. That evening, Lena Hart entered to the hotel's service corridor. She carried government records showing Adrian had acquired Mercer routes after the collapse, bribed port officials, and eliminated rival criminal organizations through violence, blackmail, and forced disappearances. He may have protected you, Lena said, placing the files on the table. That does not erase what he became. Evelyn already understood. Adrian might not have murdered her father, but he had built power from the wreckage. Every truth she uncovered divided him into 2 men, one who rescued the hunted and another who ruled through fear. She refused to abandon her revenge until she knew which man was real. Late that night, Evelyn entered Adrian's financial system and copied enough evidence to dismantle his empire. Her finger hovered above the command that would transfer everything to Lena. Adrian appeared in the doorway. He saw the files. He saw the active connection. He did not stop her. Some of those records were placed there for you, he said. Evelyn turned slowly. You use me. Mason and Sloan control parts of my network I cannot identify from the inside. Every account you opened revealed who attempted to bury it. Her grief had been bait. Her investigation had been surveillance. Even their marriage had become another weapon in Adrian's war. You let me believe I was destroying you. You may still have to. That truth hurt more than deception. He had finally given her enough evidence to ruin him because the fall of his empire might be the only way to keep her alive. The following night, a desert festival filled the roads near the hotel with music, lanterns, and crowded market stalls. Masked gunmen moved through the celebration, while Adrian's guards were redirected by Ford's orders bearing Mason's authorization. Evelyn escaped between vendors and reached an abandoned railway platform beyond the lights. Adrian arrived alone seconds before the gunman cornered her. A shot struck his side as he shielded her. She could have run. She could have left him bleeding beside the tracks and completed the revenge she had planned for 3 years. Instead, she dragged him into an old freight carriage, pressed both hands against the wound, and stopped the bleeding. While searching for bandages, she found his emergency phone. A new image showed Caleb alive inside a snowy medical facility. The photograph had been received only hours earlier. The message attached to it warned that Caleb would be killed unless Evelyn delivered Adrian to Senator Sloan. By midnight, the desert had disappeared behind them. Evelyn and Adrian drove north through a severe Colorado snowstorm, following an isolated road between frozen lakes, pine forests, and steep mountain cliffs. Adrian's wound had been bandaged, but blood still darkened his shirt beneath his coat. The facility appeared through the snowfall like a fortress buried in white. Officially, it was a rehabilitation center for protected witnesses and injured federal contractors. Adrian called it a prison for people who knew too much. Sloan declares them dead, unstable, or unfit to testify, he said. Then he keeps them here until their memories disappear. Caleb had been imprisoned because he memorized financial codes connecting Sloan's pharmaceutical operation to government contracts. Evelyn stared at Adrian. He had suspected for years that Caleb might be alive. Yet he had never told her. Every attempt to confirm Caleb's location, Adrian explained, had caused another witness to vanish. Silence had been the only protection he understood. Evelyn said nothing, but her coldness became its own accusation. He had decided which truths she was strong enough to know. He had controlled her grief while claiming to protect her freedom. That betrayal cut deeper than anything written in his financial records. They entered through an abandoned emergency tunnel beneath the frozen lake. Inside, Evelyn found narrow corridors filled with patients living under false names. Nurses administered drugs designed to damage memory and create confusion during future testimony. The records revealed something even worse. Racial minorities, immigrants, and poor defendants had been selected disproportionately because officials believed their disappearances would attract less attention. These were not people who had been forgotten by accident. They had been chosen because the powerful expected no one to defend them. Evelyn found Caleb in a locked medical wing. He was alive, thin, and weakened by years of medication. When she embraced him, his body stiffened before recognition slowly broke through his fear. Then he saw Adrian. "Get away from him," Caleb whispered. "He betrayed father." Evelyn searched the archives, while Adrian disabled the lockdown system. Footage showed Mason Rourke delivering Caleb to the facility. Another recording showed Senator Sloan meeting privately with the prison director. Adrian placed a weapon in Evelyn's hand. "When we leave," he said, "you decide whether I leave with you." Before she could answer, alarms erupted. Mason entered with private guards and confessed that he had manufactured the evidence connecting Adrian to Victor's death. He had expected Evelyn's hatred to turn her into the perfect assassin, creating a vacancy at the top of Adrian's organization. Caleb's memory returned in fragments. Victor had survived the original attack. He had later been murdered inside a federal transport vehicle. Adrian had not been there. Evelyn, Adrian, and Caleb escaped as the facility entered lockdown, crossing the frozen lake, while gunfire shattered the ice behind them. Near the opposite shore, Caleb seized Evelyn's arm. Father's killer was protected by someone inside Adrian's own family. Caleb's warning carried them east to a white stone mansion overlooking the storm-dark Atlantic. Margaret Vale's main estate stood above violent cliffs, surrounded by wind-bent pines and distant islands disappearing beneath rain. Waves struck the rocks hard enough to shake the windows as Evelyn, Adrian, and Caleb entered through guarded doors. Margaret received them calmly. Her gaze rested on Caleb without surprise. "You knew he was alive," Evelyn said. "I knew he had survived once," Margaret replied. "I did not know whether Sloan had allowed him to survive again." Adrian believed his mother could identify the Vale relative who had protected Victor's killer. Instead, Margaret led them into a private library and revealed that she had helped Victor create the original marriage agreement. She had known Evelyn might eventually come seeking revenge. By placing her beside Adrian, Margaret believed Evelyn would gain enough access to uncover the truth. Evelyn felt the last pieces of her life turning into moves on someone else's board. Her marriage, her inheritance. Even her anger had been anticipated and arranged. "I am not a strategy," she said. Margaret did not apologize. She revealed that Adrian's late father had accepted Sloan's contract to destroy Mercer Shipping. Adrian had secretly opposed the operation, but at the time he lacked the authority to stop his father or protect every target. Victor's real killer had been Dominic Vale, Adrian's uncle. Dominic now lived under a false identity and served as one of Sloan's advisors. Margaret had known. For years, she had hidden Dominic's involvement because exposing him would have divided the Vale organization and triggered a civil war. The greatest betrayal had not come from Sloan or Mason. It had come from the mother Adrian had spent his life protecting. Adrian's expression barely changed, but Evelyn saw devastation in the stillness of his face. "You chose stability over justice," he said. "I chose the survival of this family." "No, you chose its power." Evelyn finally understood why Adrian had remained silent. He had not been blindly loyal to his relatives. He had been gathering enough evidence to destroy them without allowing innocent people to fall with them. Before Margaret could reveal more, gunfire erupted outside. Mason's men attacked through the storm, cutting power to the mansion and forcing their way toward Caleb. Margaret led Evelyn through a concealed passage, while Adrian held the eastern corridor. Behind a hidden wall, they entered an archive containing financial orders. recorded calls and surveillance images proving Dominic had arranged Victor's murder. Margaret also admitted why she had approved the marriage. Adrian had become willing to sacrifice everything, including himself, she said. I believed you might give him a reason not to. Evelyn's anger sharpened. I do not exist to repair your son. Whatever grew between her and Adrian would come from choice, not obligation, debt, or a dead man's arrangement. After Mason's attack failed, Adrian confronted Margaret before the remaining Vale guards. He stripped her of all authority within the organization and ordered every account under her control frozen. The archive identified Dominic's next location, Senator Sloan's private fundraiser in Manhattan. Before they left, Margaret gave Evelyn a sealed personal letter written by Victor. Her father warned that revenge could make her vulnerable to the same corruption that had destroyed him. Then she reached the final line. Years before Evelyn and Adrian ever met, Adrian had offered to surrender his entire empire in exchange for her safety. Victor's final letter remained inside Evelyn's coat as she entered the glass-roof Manhattan Club on Adrian's arm. Below the winter sky, Central Park stretched beyond elegant terraces and glowing city towers. Indoor gardens surrounded politicians, judges, investors, police commanders, and corporate executives gathered beneath crystal lights for Senator Sloan's charity gala. The room looked civilized. Evelyn now understood how easily civilization could be used to hide organized cruelty. Dominic Vale stood near the central fountain under the name Daniel Voss, a respected international business advisor. Sloan greeted donors beside him, smiling as though neither man had ordered disappearances, illegal transports, or murder. Sloan expected Evelyn to betray Adrian before midnight. This time, she intended to give him exactly what he wanted. Lena coordinated a federal evidence team outside the building, but her warning remained in Evelyn's earpiece. Assume some of our agents belong to Sloan. Adrian led Evelyn onto the raised stage. Before hundreds of witnesses, he announced that control of several Vale companies would transfer immediately to his wife. Applause filled the club. Guests interpreted the decision as devotion from a powerful husband. In truth, the transfer gave Evelyn legal authority to release the company's financial records without approval from the Vale organization. Adrian had placed the weapon in her hands. He had also accepted that she might use it against him. While Caleb entered through the service system and uploaded evidence from the Colorado prison, Evelyn studied the gala's guests. Many had signed contracts, approved investigations, or ignored missing workers, prisoners, immigrants, and witnesses. They had not failed to notice the victims. They had simply calculated that those lives were worth less than their profits. That realization hardened her resolve. Sloan's empire had survived because respectable people kept choosing comfort over justice. Suddenly, Lena's signal vanished. Mason appeared on an upper balcony with one arm locked around her throat and a weapon against her side. Adrian surrenders, he announced, or the agent dies. Adrian stepped forward without hesitation. No more blood, he said. Evelyn opened the encrypted drive Sloan had demanded and crossed the ballroom toward him. Every step felt like the completion of the revenge she had planned for years. You wanted the evidence against my husband, she said. Take it. Sloan accepted the files. Across the room, Adrian met her gaze without anger. Then every public screen inside the club turned black. Transactions appeared, government contracts, prison payments, political bribes, Dominic's authorization for Victor Mercer's murder, and Sloan's accounts financing the entire network. Caleb's voice entered the sound system, exposing Dominic's true identity. Dominic fled toward the rooftop greenhouse. Mason fired at Evelyn, but Adrian struck him aside and took the blow meant for her. At the same moment, Margaret Vale entered the ballroom and publicly confirmed her family's involvement. Her confession destroyed the reputation she had protected for decades. Sloan's security team lowered their weapons when their secret contracts appeared on screen. Federal officers flooded the club and arrested Sloan, Dominic, Mason, and the officials named in the records. Adrian did not run. He gave Lena access to every remaining Vale file. Only then did Evelyn learn that he had prepared a legal confession before their wedding. He had always intended to surrender once she was safe, and the Mercer property had been restored. As officers approached, Evelyn opened confession. Adrian had accepted responsibility for a murder he did not commit. Several months after the Manhattan arrests, the The Vale Empire no longer controlled the shadows. Sloan, Dominic, Mason, and the officials who protected them awaited prosecution. Caleb recovered at a peaceful rehabilitation estate in Northern California, where redwood forests opened into wildflower fields above the Pacific. From a sunlit room overlooking the cliffs, he helped investigators decode the remaining financial records. Mercer Shipping was legally restored under Evelyn's control. Adrian remained in federal custody. His confession admitted responsibility for criminal transports, bribery, obstruction, and Victor Mercer's murder. Evelyn knew the first crimes were real. Adrian had protected witnesses, but he had also built an empire through fear, illegal money, and stolen power. Saving her family did not erase the people his organization had harmed, but he had not killed her father. Evelyn discovered that Adrian had accepted responsibility for Victor's death to prevent Margaret from being prosecuted as an accessory. Even after stripping his mother of authority, he was still trying to protect her by destroying himself. Evelyn refused to let sacrifice become another form of control. Using Victor's original records, Caleb's testimony, prison footage, and Margaret's public confession, she proved Dominic had ordered the murder. Adrian's false admission was removed, although his genuine crimes remained. His cooperation dismantled the wider network, exposed compromised officials, and helped locate missing witnesses. The court reduced his sentence, but it did not excuse him. Before his transfer to a lower security facility, Evelyn visited him. A glass partition separated them. Adrian's shoulders were no longer held with the rigid authority of a man commanding an empire. Evelyn looked at him for a long moment, then removed her wedding ring and placed it on the table. The marriage built from revenge, obligation, and hidden agreements was over. Adrian lowered his eyes. He did not ask her to wait. Years later, he arrived at the California estate alone. He brought no guards, no expensive car, and no expectation of forgiveness. Evelyn had transformed the property into a legal center for families of missing witnesses and wrongfully detained prisoners. Adrian had spent his remaining legitimate fortune compensating workers and victims harmed by the Vale organization. Caleb met him at the entrance. Before allowing Adrian to see Evelyn, he revealed the truth behind Victor's final instruction. Their father had never demanded a marriage. Victor had only asked Adrian to keep Evelyn alive until she was safe enough to make her own decision. Adrian had accepted the arrangement because Evelyn's hatred kept her close, protected, and beyond Sloane's reach. But protection had never entitled him to her future. Evelyn found Adrian standing near the ocean cliffs, with bright sunlight spreading across the water and distant mountains rising beyond the redwoods. They remained several feet apart. No contract bound them now. No family debt demanded loyalty. Adrian had lost the empire that once made him powerful, while Evelyn had surrendered the revenge that once gave her purpose. Her revenge had succeeded, not by destroying him, but by destroying the lies and inherited power that had made their marriage necessary. Then Evelyn stepped toward Adrian by choice.